The Montana wilderness was quiet, almost too quiet, when Sam Walker, a retired ranger with silver in his beard and weather in his eyes, slowed his old pickup along a dirt road. He had lived his life among these trees, reading their silences as much as their sounds. But today, silence carried weight. Then it came, a low, guttural cry, sharp enough to freeze the air. Sam braked, leaning forward, scanning the forest. His heart thudded like it did back when he faced wildfires and storms. Something was wrong, a sound of pain that didn't belong. He opened his door, boots crunching earth, every instinct alert. And then he saw it, massive, bleeding, tangled in cruel barbed wire. A grizzly, its strength fading. For a moment, predator and man locked eyes, and Sam knew this was no ordinary encounter. This was a plea. The bear was enormous, fur matted with blood, wire slicing deep into flesh. Yet there was something more, something human in the way it looked back at Sam. This was Magnus, though Sam didn't know the name yet. Not a monster, not a threat, but a living soul caught in agony. Most men would have turned back, slammed the truck door, and driven on. But Sam wasn't most men. His years as a ranger had taught him one rule: never look away from suffering. He gripped the wire cutters in his calloused hands. Every nerve screamed retreat, but the bear didn't lunge, didn't growl. It simply breathed, ragged, desperate. Sam whispered under his breath, "All right, big guy, let's get you free." And with that, predator and man began a fragile bargain, one snip of rusted wire at a time.
The first snap of steel echoed like thunder. Magnus flinched, a guttural roar ripping from his chest, the kind of sound that could stop a man's heart. Sam froze, sweat sliding down his temple, wire cutters trembling. One wrong move, and this would be his last. But then, Magnus lowered his head, not in defeat, but in trust. Sam swallowed hard. He hadn't seen trust like this, not even in animals he'd raised from cubs. Carefully, he clipped again. Wire after wire, each cut burned Magnus, but the bear never struck back. His golden eyes stayed on Sam, as if saying, "Finish what you started." And Sam did, cutting through the barbs that had stolen this beast's freedom. When the last wire snapped loose, Sam dropped his hands, chest heaving. Magnus was free, but too weak to stand. And the story wasn't over. Freedom brought no relief. Magnus collapsed into the dirt, his sides rising in shallow, broken rhythm. Sam's gut twisted. He had freed the bear, but what now? Leaving meant certain death. Helping meant insanity. Still, his boots carried him to the truck. He grabbed water, an old tarp, rope, anything he had. Returning to Magnus, he poured slow drops near the great snout. A heavy tongue slid out, lapping weakly. Sam's chest tightened. This wasn't just survival. This was a silent bond. But the forest around them stirred, a snapping branch, low growls curling through the pines. Sam turned, his blood running cold. Wolves, more than one, predators of opportunity, circling the wounded giant. He gripped the rope tighter, heart racing. Magnus was free of wire, but now both were trapped in a new fight.
From the trees, glowing eyes emerged, a pack of wolves, lean and relentless, led by a silent shadow. The leader never needed a name. The menace in its stare was enough. Sam knew the math. An injured bear, even Magnus, was prey to hungry wolves. He stood between them, knife trembling in his grip. One wrong breath, and they'd lunge. Magnus stirred, struggling to lift his great frame, but his leg buckled, slamming him back to earth. Sam's pulse roared in his ears. He had freed the beast,
But now freedom meant a bloodbath. The wolves closed in, circling, testing, waiting for weakness. Sam whispered, almost to himself, "Not like this, not tonight." The pack growled deeper, hunger dripping from every step. Sam's next choice could save them both, or end them in the dirt forever. Sam's knife felt pitifully small as the wolves edged closer, teeth bared, eyes burning with hunger. The leader stepped forward, silent but commanding, every inch of its body taut with menace. Sam knew wolves rarely attacked humans outright, but this wasn't about him. It was about Magnus, bleeding and helpless. His instincts screamed retreat, yet his feet held their ground. He raised his voice, loud, sharp, trying to sound larger than he was. The pack hesitated for a beat, circling wider. Magnus groaned, his body shifting, a weak attempt to rise. Sam's heart hammered. He wasn't just protecting a bear, he was gambling his life on an animal that couldn't fight back. The question wasn't if the wolves would strike, but when. And just as the leader crouched to leap, the night cracked open with a sound that changed everything.
A roar, deep, thunderous, primal, shook the forest floor. Magnus. Against every ounce of pain and exhaustion, the bear forced himself up, standing tall on 3 legs. His massive frame towered above Sam, his fangs bared in a furious snarl. The wolves faltered. Even wounded, Magnus was a mountain of rage, no longer prey, but predator reborn. Sam stumbled back, stunned at the impossible sight. He had thought the bear finished, but here it was, protecting him. The pack leader growled, circling, but hesitation rippled through the ranks. Wolves knew when odds had shifted, and now those odds weren't theirs. With one last piercing glare, the leader stepped back. The rest melted into the shadows. Silence returned, heavy and shaking. Magnus collapsed again, his body spent, chest heaving. Sam dropped to his knees beside him. He whispered, trembling, "You just saved my life." The wolves had vanished, but victory was hollow. Magnus was barely alive, his massive chest heaving slower with every breath. Sam pressed his hand to the bear's side, warm, wet, and weakening. He couldn't let this end here. But how do you move 1,200 pounds of fading life? His eyes darted to the truck, to the winch cable bolted on the front bumper. The idea was insane, dangerous, but so was leaving Magnus behind. Sam sprinted, yanking steel cable loose with trembling hands, racing back to the tarp he had slid under the bear earlier. His voice cracked as he worked. "Stay with me, big guy." Every second was a countdown. Every breath Magnus took felt like it could be the last. The hook snapped tight on the tarp. Sam slammed the winch. The machine groaned, the rope tightened, and Magnus began to move. The cable whined, dragging Magnus inch by inch across the dirt, his massive body scraping against roots and stone. Sam's throat burned as he shouted encouragements, though he knew the bear couldn't understand the words, only the tone. "Almost there, buddy. Almost there." The truck engine strained as the winch did its brutal work. Magnus groaned, a deep, guttural sound of pain, but he didn't resist. He endured. The truck bed loomed closer, just feet away. Sam's hands shook on the lever. If the cable snapped now, if the tarp tore again, it would be over. The line jerked, the bear's body rolled, and then with one final pull, Magnus slid into the bed of the truck. Sam's knees buckled in relief. But looking at the bear's shallow breaths, he knew relief was temporary. Now it was a race against death, and the clock was merciless. Sam leapt into the driver's seat, engine roaring, gravel spitting behind the tires. The forest blurred as the truck tore down the rugged dirt road, every bump jarring his teeth. In the rearview mirror, Magnus lay motionless, chest rising only faintly. Sam's voice cracked with desperation. "Don't you quit on me now." The Wildlife Rescue Center was miles away, too far for comfort, and every second felt stolen.
He slammed the accelerator harder, headlights slicing the dark. Memories of the wolves lingered in his mind, but now the real enemy wasn't teeth or claws, it was time. Sweat rolled down his temples as he whispered, almost praying, "Hold on, Magnus, just hold on." And in the silence of that wild night, the only answer was the faint, fragile sound of breath. Still there, still alive, for now. The truck screeched to a halt outside the Montana Wildlife Rescue Center. Floodlights blazed, cutting through the night as staff rushed forward. Sam jumped out, his voice hoarse. "He's dying. Help him, now!" Dr. Jonathan John Parker, head vet and longtime friend of Sam, appeared, his face tightening at the sight of Magnus sprawled in the truck bed. "Good Lord, Sam, what did you drag in?" No time for questions. Teams swarmed with stretchers, syringes, and ropes. Sam's hands trembled as he helped guide the giant down, every groan from Magnus cutting through him like glass. The bear's pulse was weak, breaths shallow. John locked eyes with Sam. "We'll do everything we can, but you'd better prepare yourself. This isn't just bad, it's critical." Sam swallowed hard. He had saved Magnus from wolves, from wire, but now he had to trust strangers to save him. Sam paced the sterile hallway, sweat soaking his shirt despite the cold night air still clinging to his skin. Through the glass, he caught flashes of frantic motion, needles piercing thick fur, sutures pulling flesh together, bandages wrapping wounds too deep to look at. Dr. Parker barked orders, his voice calm but urgent. Sam pressed his palms to the wall, helpless for the first time. He had been the one in the forest, the one with wire cutters and courage, but here, he was just a man on the outside, waiting. Every second stretched like an eternity. A nurse stepped out, shaking her head. "He's fighting, but it's touch and go." Sam's chest tightened. Fighting. That word. Magnus had fought off wolves when he should have been finished. Maybe, just maybe, he wasn't ready to give up now either. As dawn approached, Laura Henderson, a wildlife official, entered the center. Her face was stern, her clipboard heavier than it looked. She eyed Sam sharply. "You realize what you've done, don't you? Bringing a wounded predator this close to people?" Sam bristled, his exhaustion boiling into anger. "I couldn't just leave him out there to die." Laura shook her head. "You may have doomed him. Regulations are clear. Bears exposed to this level of human contact are often deemed a risk. If he recovers, relocation or euthanasia could be on the table." Sam's heart sank. Euthanasia. After everything, after trust, after survival, that word hit harder than any wolf could. But before Sam could argue, Dr. Parker stepped into the hall, pulling off bloody gloves. His tired eyes softened as they met Sam's. He's alive. For now. The first rays of sun slipped through the blinds as Sam entered the recovery stall. Magnus was awake. Weak, bandaged, but awake. His golden brown eyes locked onto Sam's, the same way they had in the forest, steady, silent, seeing more than words could carry. Sam stepped closer, gripping the railing. His throat tightened. "You made it, big guy." For a moment, silence held the air. Then Magnus gave a low, rumbling huff. Not a growl, not pain, but recognition, trust. Sam's chest ached as he leaned on the bars, realizing what this moment meant. He had fought to save the bear's life, but somewhere along the way, Magnus had saved something inside him too. Behind him, Dr. Parker cleared his throat softly. "He'll recover, slowly, but you should know, Laura's not wrong. Decisions will have to be made."
Laura's words hung like a storm cloud. Regulations, risk, euthanasia. Sam clenched his fists, torn between fury and despair. He looked back at Magnus, lying battered but alive, and felt the weight of every choice he'd made. He had risked his life, pulled him from wire, faced down wolves, driven all night, and now bureaucratic rules might undo it all? Dr. Parker placed a steady hand on his shoulder. "We'll fight for him, Sam, but the system, it doesn't always see what we see." Sam's jaw tightened. He glanced once more at Magnus, at the quiet trust in those eyes. No law, no form, no policy could erase that bond. "Then I'll fight harder," Sam muttered. And for the first time, he realized this battle wasn't just about saving a bear. It was about proving a soul deserved to live. Laura stood stiffly at the foot of Magnus's recovery stall, her clipboard tucked against her chest. "He's calm now," she said flatly, "but what happens when he's stronger? Bears don't belong in human spaces." Sam bristled. "He's not just some wild beast. He trusted me." Laura raised an eyebrow. "That's exactly the problem. A bear that trusts humans is dangerous, to him and everyone else." Sam's heart twisted. Was she right? Could his presence doom Magnus more than save him? But then Magnus shifted, lifting his head despite the pain, eyes fixed on Sam as if he understood the argument. Sam swallowed hard. "Dangerous?" he whispered. "No, he's proof that trust changes everything." For the first time, Laura's daze flickered, uncertainty cracking her hardened expression. Yet the unspoken question lingered. Would that trust cost Magnus his life?
That night, as Sam dozed in a chair outside the recovery room, a sound jolted him awake. Low growls echoed from the tree line beyond the facility fence. His blood ran cold. Wolves. The same pack that had stalked Magnus now circled closer, drawn by the scent of blood. Sam leapt to his feet, rushing outside. Shadows slithered between the trees, yellow eyes glinting. He grabbed a lantern, swinging it high, shouting into the darkness. The wolves hesitated, but didn't retreat. One stepped forward, larger, scarred, the unmistakable leader. Sam's throat tightened. They hadn't come for him. They wanted Magnus. Reinforcements arrived, rangers firing warning shots into the air. The pack finally melted into the night, but the message was clear. Magnus wasn't safe. Not here, not anywhere. And as Sam watched the shadows vanish, he knew the fight to protect him had only just begun. The next morning, Sam cornered Dr. Parker in his office. "We can't keep Magnus here. The wolves know where he is, and if Laura gets her way," his voice broke, "they'll put him down." Parker leaned back, exhaustion etched in every line of his face. "Then what are you suggesting, Sam? Sneak him out? Relocate him yourself? You'd be breaking every law on the books." Sam's jaw tightened. "Then maybe the law's wrong." Parker studied him for a long moment. "You're serious?" Sam nodded. "Magnus doesn't just deserve survival. He deserves freedom. A safe place, far from fences, far from bullets." Parker sighed heavily. "You're talking about disappearing him into the wilderness. If you fail, you'll both pay the price." Sam leaned forward, voice low, determined. "I'd rather risk everything than watch him die in a cage." Sam's plan couldn't stay secret for long. Laura caught him loading supplies, rope, tarps, water jugs into his truck. Her eyes narrowed. "You're not seriously thinking of moving him?" Sam froze, guilt written across his face. "He won't survive here." Laura stepped closer, her tone sharp. "You think you're saving him, but you're sentencing him. A wounded bear in the backcountry? He won't last a week." Sam met her glare with fire. "You didn't see him fight. You didn't see him stand against those wolves when he could barely stand at all. He's stronger than you think." For a moment, Laura's mask cracked, doubt flickering across her features. But then she squared her shoulders. "If you try this, Sam, you'll be breaking the law, and I will stop you." Sam clenched his fists. He wasn't just fighting for Magnus anymore. He was fighting Laura, too. Night fell like a curtain. With Parker's quiet help, Sam wheeled Magnus out under the cover of darkness, the bear sedated just enough to keep him calm. Every creak of the stretcher felt like thunder in Sam's chest. They reached the truck, muscles straining as they loaded the massive weight. Sam climbed into the driver's seat, gripping the wheel so tightly his knuckles turned white. But then, a flashlight beam slashed across the parking lot. "Laura."
Sam, don't do this!" Her voice rang sharp, echoing in the night. He looked back, torn, heart hammering. She stood rigid, torn between duty and something else, a flicker of respect. Sam's jaw clenched. "I have to." He slammed the truck into gear, tires spitting gravel as he disappeared into the wilderness. Behind him, Laura lowered her flashlight slowly, her expression unreadable. The chase had begun.
The truck rattled over rugged back roads, headlights slicing through the dense Montana forest. In the bed, Magnus stirred, groaning low as the sedative faded. Sam's pulse spiked. He whispered over his shoulder, "Hang on, buddy, just a little further." Every mile deeper into the wilderness meant safety, or disaster. The road narrowed, tree branches clawing at the truck, until finally Sam reached a secluded clearing he'd scouted years ago. It was remote, hidden, a ranger's secret. He killed the engine, silence swallowing him whole. Magnus shifted weakly, eyes half-lidded but alert. Sam climbed into the bed, resting a trembling hand on the bear's fur. "We made it," he breathed. But even as relief flickered, a chilling thought surfaced. If he had found this place, predators could too, and Laura wasn't far behind. The wilderness had welcomed them, but it would test them mercilessly. Sam built a small fire, careful to shield its light. He boiled water, his hands steady despite the fatigue clawing at his bones. Magnus lay near the flames, chest rising in heavy rhythm, licking at bandaged wounds. For a moment, Sam allowed hope, but then, from beyond the tree line, a low howl echoed. His stomach dropped. Wolves. They had followed. He scanned the shadows, eyes straining. The howls multiplied, closer, circling. Sam grabbed the fire poker, absurdly small against the danger ahead. Magnus raised his head, ears flicking, eyes sharp despite exhaustion. Another howl split the night. Sam whispered, "Not again, not tonight." His pulse thundered as he stepped between Magnus and the darkness. But deep down, he knew this wasn't just another attack. This was a test, and the wilderness wasn't done pushing them.
The forest rustled with movement. Sam's firelight barely stretched far enough to see, but he caught them, shadows slinking between trees, eyes glowing gold. The wolf pack was here, and this time they weren't testing the edges, they were closing in. Sam gripped the poker, every nerve screaming. One wolf stepped forward, larger than the rest, scarred muzzle gleaming. The leader. Sam shouted, his voice raw, "Back off!" The wolves didn't flinch. Then a sound that silenced the clearing. Magnus rose, staggering, trembling, but standing. His massive frame loomed above Sam, fur bristling, chest rumbling with a growl deeper than thunder. The wolves hesitated, steps faltering. Sam's breath caught. Even broken, Magnus radiated raw power. But could he hold them back in this state? The leader snarled, and suddenly the line between predator and prey blurred. Headlights pierced the trees. Sam spun. Laura's SUV rolled into the clearing. She leapt out, flashlight cutting through the dark. "Sam!" she shouted, then froze at the sight. Magnus towering, wolves circling, Sam between them. Her instincts screamed, "Shoot!" Her hand hovered near her tranquilizer rifle. Sam's voice cracked, desperate. "Don't! If you fire, the wolves will attack." Laura's chest heaved, eyes darting between him and the pack. For a tense moment, everything balanced on a knife's edge. The wolves growling, Magnus swaying but unyielding, Laura gripping her weapon. Then Magnus roared, shaking the forest to its roots. The wolves faltered, ears flattening. Laura's flashlight beam landed on Magnus's eyes, burning not with rage, but defiance. Something inside her shifted. For the first time, she didn't see a threat. She saw a survivor, and maybe an ally. The wolf pack lunged. Sam braced for chaos, but Magnus surged forward, roaring so fiercely the ground itself seemed to tremble. Wolves scattered, the leader circling back with a snarl.
Laura raised her rifle, fired a tranquilizer, not at Magnus, but at the wolf leader. The dart struck, and the beast staggered, yelping before retreating into the dark. The pack hesitated, then melted into the trees one by one. Silence crashed over the clearing. Sam's chest heaved, sweat stinging his eyes. He turned to Laura, stunned. She lowered her rifle, gaze steady. "Don't say I didn't warn you," she muttered, but her voice lacked its usual steel. Magnus collapsed onto his side, exhausted but alive. Sam knelt beside him, relief flooding his chest. For the first time, they weren't divided. They had stood together and somehow won. The fire crackled, throwing shadows across Magnus's battered frame. Sam sat at his side, exhaustion pulling at him, while Laura stood guard, rifle lowered but ready. Her eyes flicked from Sam to the bear, a storm of conflict raging inside. "You can't keep him. He's still wild, dangerous." Sam looked at Magnus, then back at her. "He's more than that. He trusted me when he didn't have to." Laura's jaw tightened. She wanted to argue, but the memory of Magnus facing down the wolf pack silenced her. Duty screamed one answer. Trust whispered another. The silence stretched until the crack of distant twigs shattered it. Both turned sharply, realizing the wilderness wasn't done with them. But this time, they weren't facing it alone.
Hours passed beneath the star-sprinkled Montana sky. Sam and Laura kept watch, trading glances that spoke louder than words. Magnus slept fitfully, chest heaving, wounds raw but mending. At one point, his eyes flicked open, locking on Sam's. The bear gave a low huff, almost reassuring, before slipping back into uneasy dreams. Sam whispered, "We'll get you through this." Laura heard, but didn't interrupt. For the first time, she saw not recklessness in him, but something else, a bond she couldn't explain. A wolf's distant howl drifted through the pines, raising goosebumps along her arms. Sam poked the fire higher, the flames snapping bright. "Tomorrow," he said firmly, "we move." Laura studied him in silence. Against all reason, against every protocol she had sworn to, she nodded. Tomorrow, they'd face it. Together. Dawn broke over the forest, painting the sky in orange and gold. Sam rigged his truck again, securing Magnus gently on the reinforced tarp. The bear stirred, weak but alive. Every bump on the dirt road made Sam's chest tighten, afraid the fragile trust might shatter. Laura drove this time, her eyes locked on the path ahead. "There's a rescue facility 30 miles out. They'll know what to do." Sam stared at her, hesitant. He feared, once Magnus was in their hands, he'd never see him again. Laura read the hesitation in his silence. "You saved him. That doesn't change. But he belongs in the wild." Sam's grip tightened on the rope securing Magnus. Belonging. Was it really that simple? Ahead, the wilderness gave way to the first signs of human roads, and with it, impossible choices.
At the rescue facility, veterinarians swarmed Magnus, tending to his wounds with careful precision. Sam stood outside the pen, hands trembling at his sides. Laura joined him, voice soft. "He'll live." Relief hit Sam like a wave, but so did grief. He had saved Magnus, fought for him, but now he had to let go. Through the bars, Magnus's golden eyes found his. For a moment, everything else vanished. Sam whispered, "You're free now. No more chains, no more pain." The bear gave a low chuffing sound, the same one from the night they first locked eyes. Sam's throat tightened. It was a goodbye, but also something more. Gratitude, trust, a bond that would never be broken, no matter the distance. Days later, Sam stood at the edge of the Montana forest, staring out at the wilderness he once patrolled. Behind him, Laura approached. "He's healed," she said softly.
They released him back into protected land this morning." Sam didn't speak. His eyes scanned the endless tree line, hoping, maybe foolishly, for one last glimpse. The forest remained silent, yet deep inside, he knew. Magnus was out there, alive, carrying a piece of him forever. Laura studied him, then added, "You changed things. For him. For me." Sam smiled faintly, weathered and tired. "No," he said. "He changed me." With that, he turned and walked into the rising sun, forever marked by a bond that defied fear, duty, and even nature itself. Some stories don't end. They echo, in trust, in survival, in the wild.